Instead of using the term reality, I like the term what is going on, abbreviated like this. What is going on is innocent. Something is going on. Right? So instead of talking about reality, we're talking about what is going on. You've heard that expression. This is the moment I've been waiting for all my life. Here it comes. There it goes. Actually existing so-called democracies actually existed. So we begin with the flat statement, or if you like, presupposition, that actually existing democracies fall far short of the potential of human beings. Self-government implies self-construction, self-creation. We could say that democracy is creative power, constructive power. Actually, there's a term in Orthodox political theory which fits pretty well here, constituent power. This potential that I've been talking about is blocked in many ways. So we have the notion of creativity, and we also have the notion of blocks to creativity. This course will deal with just one set of obstacles. What this course will consider is a particular kind of block to democracy that arises out of deeply embedded ways of perceiving and making sense of what is going on. These ways of perceiving and making sense of reality have been characterized as unsanity, unsane, unsanity. This term was coined by a guy named Alfred Korzybski, who founded a movement called General Semantics. And this is the major source of, let's say, it's the major frame within which I hang the various parts of the course. He wrote a book called Science and Sanity. How many of you have heard the expression, the map is not the territory? The map is not the territory. In other words, at the very least, what we say about what is going on is not the same as what is going on. Another term for insanity that comes from Korzybski is identification. Those of you who know a little bit about the Frankfurt School and neighbors of the Frankfurt School in continental political thought, you may have heard the term identity thinking. It's probably Adorno. That term, identity thinking. Korzybski uses the term identification. Well, I've already pointed to one form of identification, and that is to identify what we say about what is going on with what is going on. Identify what we say about what is going on with what is going on. To identify is to make the same. To make or treat or construct different or similar things as the same. To see them as the same, to interpret them as the same, and even to make them somehow the same. Another angle on identification is that it makes us experience particular phenomena as mere instances of universals or of general concepts or categories. Many different philosophers have been concerned with this from many different points of view. But philosophers only talk to one another. You know, they don't even talk to political scientists. General semantics was actually addressed to everyone. And General semantics was actually intended as a movement which would not be restricted to academics, but to everyone, anyone, starting in kindergarten, who could benefit from it and or in some ways contribute to it. And that's really the main reason I'm interested in it. So identification is damaging to life. Talking about a set of sensory, cognitive, the term unsanity or identification or identity thinking refers to a set of sensory cognitive deficits that are normal. That's why Korzybski doesn't call them insane. He creates the term unsane. There's three things. There's sane, which very few people are for very few moments. Unsane, which most people are most of the time, and insane, which some people are, at least if they get the diagnosis. Damaging to life, and of course it's also damaging to creativity in the sense of blocking creativity. Because if you already know what something is as an instance of a general category, then the matter is closed. So openness to the new, or to difference, attention to the new or to difference, is blocked by identity thinking. We could say, if we were feeling less cynical today, that there's an urgent need globally for a new way of thinking, sensing, feeling, which would be, in Korzybski's terms, sane. So he's got science and sanity. We'll see how the notion of democracy, for me anyway, is very closely related to the notion of science. The conviction of certainty about truth, reality, the good, etc., that's an obstacle. The French political theorist Claude Lefort has defined democracy as the form of political life that he believes is emerging, still emerging, that involves, and I quote, the erosion of all the marks of certainty. And I have a footnote here relating to Rancière, the French political thinker Jacques Rancière, and he defines democracy as based on the claim to rule of those who have no claim to rule. It's insane to identify a particular construction of the world, or a map of the world, with the world as it is in itself, apart from all particular constructions, interpretations, experiences, etc. of it. So the map is not territory. The term territory is a little bit ambiguous, but for now let's say it means the world as it is, quote, in itself, apart from all particular interpretations, experiences, etc. All we have are maps. Science is founded on continuous revision of received ideas in a spirit of uncertainty. So there's a very close affinity then between the democratic orientation and the scientific orientation. Erosion of all the marks of certainty describes the rise of democracy and the rise of science. This led me in recent years to call my version of general semantics Radical General Semantics, in order to distinguish it from regular general semantics, which in its brief career in the United States was more or less thoroughly Americanized and liberalized, and in fact turned into something like just another set of self-help techniques. And he calls general semantics a non-Aristotelian orientation. Not the, but a non-Aristotelian orientation to what is going on. And that became the symbol of the movement. You can get a badge with this on it. And that's null A. Korzybski calls general semantics a general science of human evaluation. Now, semantics, Korzybski, is not just about language, it's about all forms of human meaning-making. Years after Korzybski's death, some of his followers developed an approach called E prime, and that is English without any form of the verb to be, E prime. Korzybski himself often inveighed against the is of identity. We've got identification, identity thinking, and identity thinking depends on the is of identity in all of its forms. Like, for example, I am a professor. Is, so I'm identified with the role of professor. Korzybski himself often inveighed against the is of identity and the is of predication, which in languages like English facilitate identification. Right? When I say, for example, that the sky is blue, it seems like a harmless enough statement. I'm identifying what is going on in up there, which we call the sky. I'm identifying that with my perceptual experience of blue.